What's amazing is the last 17 years of his life when he lived in Egypt were the best years of his life. Vaychi Yaakov. Yaakov lived in Egypt. Those are the most geschmack years of his life. This is the best years of Yaakov. Those are the best years. Those are the best years. And the question is, tell me, how in the world does that make sense? That those last 17 years are the best years of Yaakov's life. Chas v'shalom. Yaakov Avinu didn't want to leave Eretz Yisrael. And he was in Egypt. He wasn't with Yosef for 17 years. Yosef stayed away from his father so that his father doesn't ask him, where were you all these years? 22 years, where were you? What happened? Yosef avoided going to see Yaakov. Your first 17 years of your life were the best 17 years of anything. Or the 17 years that you taught Yosef Torah before he was sold. Or how about the first 15 years of your life, Yaakov, when you were alive? With Yitzchak, your father, and Avraham Avinu. Our rabbis tell us that if you do the math, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov lived all together for 15 years. And those were the best 15 years on earth ever. When we had all three of the Avot living together. Can you imagine having Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov all together? Yaakov, wasn't that the best time of your life? How about when you married Rachel and you were raising the Shevatim? You were steiging Torah with Yosef and everything you learned in Shem Ve'ever for 14 years. You taught to Yosef by the time he was 17. Those were the best years. You were steiging. You were learning Torah in Canaan. Isn't that the best years? The Torah says, no, you want to know what the best years of Yaakov's life was? Vaychi Yaakov. The best years. When he was in Egypt. How does that make sense? Rachel passed away. Yitzchak, Avraham, already in Olam HaEmet. Yosef, you barely saw. You're in the most Tameh land. How are these the best years? The last 17 years of Yaakov's life were the best. Because his hashkafa, his mentality was, and what he was preaching to his children, is everything that God does, everything Hashem does, called the Avid Rahamana Letav Avid. Everything Hashem does is perfect. But Rachel passed away. You're not with Rachel now. You're not with Yosef. Don't ask questions. Everything he does is perfect. And Yaakov taught his children and his grandchildren in Egypt that even when you're not in your homeland, even when you're not in those great years, and you're reminiscing, those were the good old days. Yaakov is teaching his children and his descendants, these are the good old days. You want to know the best years of your life? That's now. And it's easy to look back and to say, wow, I remember when I was in yeshiva, when I was still a bacha, when I was yeshiva g'dayla, when I was still in kolel, when I was still young. No. Yaakov teaches his children, don't complain. Be happy with what you have. And live the moment. Vaychi Yaakov. The best years of his life were the 17 years that he had in Egypt. How does that work out? Yaakov's hashkafa was everything you have is a beracha. Be happy with it and say thank you, Hashem. And realize that that's a beracha. And don't complain.